My stepdad was coming into my room at night, and my mom knew but did nothing, so I told my teacher everything. And when my mom found out, she started turning me against her and convincing me that the things with my stepdad I was making up. I was 12 years old when my mom hired Maria to babysit, and I immediately hated her. Not because she wasn't nice, she was, and not because she didn't play games with me, she did, but because she couldn't stand how close I was with my stepdad, Rick. Rick was a police officer who'd moved in 3 months ago and basically became my new dad. He bought me princess dresses, took me to Disney movies, and bought me popcorn that reached the ceiling, always kept me safe. But it was like Maria had a crush on him or something, because anytime we got close, she'd pop up out of nowhere and wedge me out of the conversation. If he sat next to me on the couch, she'd suddenly need me to help in the kitchen. When he offered to drive me to gymnastics, she'd insist on coming along. And one time when I left my room to go visit Rick in the garden, she yanked my wrist so hard it almost left marks. And 12-year-old me might have been dumb, but I was by no means a pushover. So after 2 weeks of this, I asked Rick why Maria was being such an attention seeker. But Rick was kind. He told me that it wasn't her fault, because her father was dead, which meant she couldn't help but be jealous. At the time, it didn't make sense to me because her lock screen was a photo of her and her dad, but I figured that Daddy Rick knew better than me, so I just shrugged it off. But the next day, it happened again. My parents were both supposed to be working the night shift, but Rick's was canceled, which meant Maria was still on duty. Before I went to bed, he told me to meet him at the front entrance of our home at 10 p.m. because he wanted to take me on a late-night McDonald's run. So when the time came, I tiptoed as quietly as my little feet could manage. But just as I made it down the hall, Maria materialized out of nowhere and grabbed me by both shoulders, lifting me completely off the ground. I kicked and squirmed, but she carried me like a football back to my room, her fingers digging into my arms so hard I could feel each individual fingertip pressing into my skin. And just as I was about to scream, she covered her hand over my mouth and put me back to bed. "You'll understand when you're older," was all she said before closing the door shut. But 12-year-old me was fed up, like really fed up. So much so that I told the police. The police being Daddy Rick, that is. As soon as I told him, his face dropped. He took photos of the marks on my arms from where she grabbed me. As soon as my mom woke up from her midday slumber, they unanimously agreed to fire her. They even threatened to press charges if she ever came near us again. They both decided a babysitter wasn't necessary anymore, and they'd simply line up their work rosters to make sure I was never home alone. Good riddance. But instead of my life getting better like I thought it would, it got worse. With Maria gone, Daddy Rick didn't need me to sneak into his room anymore. He came to mine instead. The first night he sat on my bed and rubbed my back saying he was checking on his princess. His hands went under my nightgown and I froze. He said this was what daddies who really love their daughters did, but it had to be our secret. But like I said, I was anything but a pushover. So the next day when it was my mom's turn to stay home, I told her everything. Her face tilted and she sighed. "Oh honey, Maria really did manipulate you into telling these crazy stories, didn't she?" The way she asked it made me feel like I could only give one answer. Yes, but I didn't care. "No mom, I'm telling the truth. This is because of Maria. Right honey?" Her tone shifted from slightly loving to extremely aggressive. I went silent. That was the moment my childhood ended. From there, Rick only got worse. He installed a new lock on my door that only locked from the outside. Said it was for my safety. He came up with a new rule that I could only wear the clothes he bought for me around the house. Princess nightgowns and tutus that were a size too small. Mom convinced herself that it was sweet that he was so involved in my life. I started writing letters to Maria